Imagine standing in front of a firing squad, minutes away from your own death. The cold winter air biting at your skin, the sounds of rifles being loaded, knowing these are the final moments of your existence. And no, this isn't some fictional story. This was the reality for one of history's greatest writers, Fyodor Dostoevsky, a literary genius whose works like Crime and Punishment and The Brothers Karamazov continue to shape our understanding of human nature and morality. But Dostoevsky's journey from wasted potential to greatness mirrors the important choices you must make in your own life today. His story contains a warning and an opportunity that every person needs to hear. Young men today stand at a similar crossroads, not facing execution, but facing the slow death of potential and purpose. A death that comes not from bullets, but from hesitation, distraction, and the belief that there will always be more time. In 1849, the 28-year-old Dostoevsky was arrested. His crime? Reading and discussing banned literature that criticized the Tsarist regime. For this, he was sentenced to death by firing squad. On a freezing December morning, Dostoevsky and his fellow prisoners were taken to Semyonovsky Square in St. Petersburg. They were lined up, given white death shirts to wear, received their last rites from priests, and prepared for execution. 3 prisoners at a time were tied to posts. Dostoevsky was in the second group, forced to watch as the first group prepared to die. The order was given to aim, and then, at the very last moment, a horse and carriage arrived with a pardon. By some miracle, he was spared from his execution. In that moment, as death stared him in the face, Dostoevsky came to a sobering realization. He'd squandered his youth on idle conversations, fleeting pleasures, and aimless pursuits that felt important at the time, but meant nothing in the face of death. He saw, with painful clarity, how he had traded irreplaceable years for comfort, distraction, and the illusion that life would always give him more time. It was a brutal awakening, the kind every man eventually faces when he realizes that while he was busy drifting, life was slipping quietly out the back door. The terror of realizing your life might end before you've truly lived it. This is a fear every man must confront before it's too late. Instead of execution, Dostoevsky's sentence was changed to 4 years of hard labor in Siberia, followed by mandatory military service. To make matters even worse, in the brutal Siberian prison camp, he was forbidden from writing, the one thing that gave his life purpose and meaning. But something profound happened during those painful years in prison. Unable to write physically, he composed stories in his mind, planning the works that would later change the world forever. He later wrote, "When I look back at the past and think how much time was spent in vain, how much of it was lost in delusions, in errors, in idleness, in the inability to live, how I failed to value it." He wasn't just reflecting abstractly, he was reliving those moments, staring at death in the face, realizing what he'd wasted. This near-death experience completely transformed his perspective on time and life. Every moment became precious. Every opportunity was sacred. Like Dostoevsky in prison, young men of today are trapped, but not by physical bars, but by digital distractions, social pressures, and fear of failure. They scroll, they swipe, and compare their lives away, unaware that their most creative years are slipping through their fingers. The prison might be different, but the waste of potential is exactly the same. After those 4 grueling years in prison, something remarkable happened after his release. Dostoevsky, now deeply aware of the value of time and the fragility of life, wrote with fierce purpose, drive, and intensity. He produced masterpieces like Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, and Notes from Underground, works that continue to influence philosophy, psychology, and literature to this day. This man, who was once faced with imminent death and spared at the last moment, channeled that intensity into his creative endeavors. The suffering and his realization about time went on to fuel some of the greatest creative work humanity has ever known. His brush with death became the catalyst for his greatest achievements. So I ask you, what masterpieces are you preventing from coming into the world by delaying action? What could you create, build, or become if you treated time with the same urgency as a man saved from death? Dostoevsky's experience offers 4 critical lessons that every young man needs to hear and act on today. First, you must act before you're ready. Dostoevsky didn't wait for the perfect conditions to create his greatest works. He began writing immediately after his release despite his trauma, poor health, and financial struggles. Think about your own life right now. That dream you keep pushing away, that idea that wakes you at night, that passion you say you'll pursue someday. While you wait for that mythical moment when you'll finally feel prepared, someone just like you, with the same fears, the same doubts, and perhaps even less talent, is already taking their first steps forward. In this life, courage is in much shorter supply than genius. Because here's the truth that Dostoevsky understood in those moments facing death. Being 100% ready is a beautiful lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. The difference between those who create and those who only dream isn't skill or opportunity. It's the willingness to begin despite how unready you might feel in that moment. What if Dostoevsky had waited for the right time after the trauma of being in prison? The world would have lost some of its greatest literary treasures. The same applies to what only you can bring into existence. The firing squad taught him what we all must learn. Readiness is a luxury none of us are guaranteed. After Dostoevsky was saved from his execution, he wasn't just motivated by fame or money. He was driven by a clear sense of purpose. He understood what he was put on this earth to create. This is the revelation that changed everything for him. A Seneca, someone who lived thousands of years before Dostoevsky, once said, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." Dostoevsky found his port, his true North Star, and every word he wrote thereafter sailed toward it with fierce determination. The danger for young men today is settling for comfortable mediocrity. You face unprecedented comfort and distraction. Netflix, video games, and social media that creates the illusion of achievement while real life passes by. These distractions don't just steal your time, they rob you of the clarity needed to chart your own course. Ask yourself, if today were your last day on Earth, would you know what you regret not pursuing? What creation, what contribution, what mark on the world would haunt you as unmade? That answer, that's your direction. Dostoevsky didn't need someone to tell him what goal to set after facing death. The purpose revealed itself with blinding clarity, and so it can for you, without the firing squad, if only you'll confront the finite nature of your existence. The question isn't what short-term goal should motivate you, it's what legacy are you postponing? What direction calls to you in those quiet moments when the distractions fall away? Get ruthlessly honest about where you're heading. Dostoevsky's realization that time is finite and precious came at the cost of nearly losing his life. But here's the thing, you don't need to face a firing squad to understand this truth. Your 20s aren't practice rounds, they're the foundation of everything to come. Dostoevsky nearly lost his chance completely. And unfortunately, modern life is designed to steal your time and attention. Huge corporate companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars to keep you glued to their app, robbing your time and focus, which will ultimately affect you achieving all of your dreams and ambitions. So, what happens when you ignore the passing of time? One day, perhaps at 40, 50, or even on your deathbed, you'll awaken to the horrifying realization that your life has slipped away. Those books you dreamt about creating go unwritten. That business you wanted to start, but never did. Those relationships that never materialized. Those adventures never taken. And for what? For scrolling through strangers' highlight reels. For binge-watching shows you won't remember a year from now. This isn't just about wasted hours. It's about a wasted life. A life where potential crystallizes into regret. Where someday becomes never, and where dreams don't die dramatically, but fade so gradually you barely notice their disappearance. Your future self is begging you, pleading with you to feel the weight of each passing day. Make your plans today, not tomorrow, not next month, for the life you truly want. Define it, visualize it, chase it relentlessly, because time can never be recovered once spent, and the life unlived becomes the heaviest burden any person can bear. This is the question Dostoevsky's life demands we ask ourselves. What are you waiting for? Permission? From whom? The world doesn't hand out permission slips for greatness. The only permission that matters is the one you give yourself. Certainty, life offers none. Even Dostoevsky standing before the firing squad had no certainty about his fate until the very last second. Certainty is a luxury that doesn't exist in a world of constant change. The perfect moment, it's a mirage that keeps disappearing into the distance the closer you think you're getting. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every reason you give for waiting becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not ready yet. Guarantees you never will be ready. I need more experience ensures you'll never gain the experience that only comes from diving in. I'll start when I have more time means you'll be waiting forever. If Dostoevsky was born today, he would recognize these delusions that hold young men back today. The belief that you have endless time, the assumption that your potential will always be there, waiting like a loyal dog at the door, the comforting lie that tomorrow is guaranteed. None of this is true. Every day spent in hesitation is another day lost to the abyss of someday. Yet we cling to these excuses because they provide temporary comfort. They shield us from the risk of failure, the pain of effort, the vulnerability of putting ourselves out there. But consider this. What if today is the day before your own metaphorical firing squad? What if all your tomorrows vanish overnight? Would you be satisfied with what you've attempted, created, and become? The clock is ticking, not dramatically, like in the movies, but silently, relentlessly, without pause or mercy. And unlike Dostoevsky, most of us won't receive a last-minute reprieve from the passage of time. Dostoevsky's warning is clear. Life is short, filled with opportunities that we waste, and we rarely recognize this truth until it's too late. Don't wait for your own figurative firing squad to realize what precious time you've wasted. The cost of inaction isn't just your own unfulfilled potential, it's the impact you could have had on others, the creations you could have brought into the world, the life you could have lived. So ask yourself, what one thing will you start today? Let me leave you with Dostoevsky's words. Life is a gift. Life is happiness. Each minute could have been an eternity of happiness. Will you be the young man who lets it all slip through his fingers from sheer cowardice? Or will you be the one who, like Dostoevsky, seizes life with both hands? The firing squad of time is already aiming. The choice is yours.